have to be quick because I suspect we're going to have a lot of phone calls. My honored guest this hour and longer, I hope, is Reverend Lindsey Williams. Reverend, welcome to K-Talk.
Mills, it is a privilege to be on your show this afternoon, and I thank you so very much for allowing me to be a guest.
Let me give a little background. We get new listeners every week and every day virtually, so if you'll forgive me for going over your history a little bit, even though you've been on several times. I first entertained Reverend Williams some decades ago, and at that time he was on my show and mentioned that he had been talking with what he refers to as the elite. At this time, oil was somewhere in the neighborhood of $147 a barrel. Is that accurate?
Yes, that's what it was, Mill.
And at that time, he said, Mills, I've been told by members of the elite who really are the power behind the government. These are the secret government people that we all refer to as they. They said, they have told me that within a certain period of time, that oil is going to drop to $50 a barrel. Well, he had appeared on other shows as well, and calls started coming in. Oh, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. He's talking through his hat. It's impossible. It'll never happen. And almost to the day, oil dropped not to $50 a barrel, but pretty close to $40 a barrel. The reason I bring this up in background is I have proved the good Reverend in days that are past. And when he speaks, I listen. Now, you can choose to ignore what he's going to share with us today, but you do so at your peril. Is that a fair representation?
Mills, you've done a great job, and I appreciate it very much. And likewise, I know that I always have new listeners out there when I'm on your show. So let me go just a little bit further, if I may. It was about 38 years ago. I had been the pastor of a church for 12 years in Hollywood, Florida, Grace Baptist Church. And I went to Alaska. I was actually invited to be the chaplain to the elite of the world. And this had to have been by the providence of God. It could not have happened any other way, because I was just an ordinary, everyday sort of a person, and I still am. And for 3 years' time, I lived with the people that you only hear about. You never get to meet them. You probably never cross paths with them. You see their names in the news. Today, those people are in their 70s and 80s. But back during those 3 years, I made some very close friends amongst them, even though we were diametrically opposed to each other in our thought patterns and our way of doing things. I was a minister of the gospel and probably one of the only ministers of the gospel that ever came in touch with some of these people in a personal manner, whereby I was actually living in the same dorms with them. And because of that relationship that was kindled back in those days, these people were willing to keep in touch with me over the years. And never once have they ever said anything to me that it didn't happen exactly as they said it, because I'd like to assure every listener in your audience that nothing happens by chance. Everything is planned behind closed doors. They know in advance what's going to happen. They sometimes know 2 and 3 and 4 years in advance what's going to happen. They determine who the President of the United States of America will be. They determine what happens to currencies around the world. And you might know them as a New World Order. I call them the elite. And a number of times over the years, they've told me things that were startling, such as Mills alluded to a moment ago, and it happened exactly like that. In fact, I'll give his name because he died about 1.5 years ago. His name was Mr. Flom. He was senior executive of Atlantic Richfield. I think he later became the CEO of Atlantic Richfield. And we were on the phone together one day, and he said, Chaplain, would you like the world to think you're a prophet? And I said, again, what do you mean? He said, this is what the price of crude oil is going to be, which Mills mentioned a moment ago, and it did. Exactly 3 months later, almost to the day, it happened exactly like he said it. Now, I still have one of those individuals that I knew back then, he's in his 70s now, that still gives me information on a regular basis. And the reason that I'm on your show today, Mills, is because for nearly 3 months' time, I was so frightened over the information that I've been given by this elite individual that I was afraid to give it out. But I finally decided I'm a watchman on the wall. I have no choice. God has allowed me to have the listening audience of millions of people, and I decided I must. I cannot conscientiously any longer stand by. And in August of this year, I was told when the financial collapse will take place, Mills, and that's the reason I'm so glad to be on your show today.
That is pretty frightening. When is it going to be?
Well, let me tell you what a financial collapse is in the mind of the elite. Now, what you and I would call a financial collapse may not necessarily be the same definition they have. So I'd like to give you their definition, and I will give you the time. Please, I'm not beating around the bush. I will give it to you. I want you to have time to go and get a pencil and paper because I want you to write this down. Just like you did back in those days when I had the privilege of being told by this gentleman that the price of crude oil was going from $147 a barrel to $50 a barrel, actually went to 42, I believe it was. And you wrote that down that day, and it happened exactly like he said it. I want you to write this one down also, put it beside your calendar. Now, let me tell you what a financial collapse is according to the elite. First of all, very simple, really. So only in two expressions. When the banks close and you lose the money that you have in the bank, that's what a financial collapse is according to the definition of the elite. Now, that's what happened in 1929. The banks closed. Many of them did not reopen, and the people lost the money that were in those banks and also lost what was in many of the safety deposit boxes. So the definition that I'm going to give you in a moment is when the banks close and you lose the money that's in them. Now, this is going to happen. This is not a figment of my imagination. It's not something necessarily that Mills Crenshaw is saying. This is what is going to take place. Let me assure you, because they have said it's going to. Now, let me give you three things that you may see, and when you see them, you'll say Lindsey Williams said there was going to be a collapse. But I want to tell you what it is not going to be. When the stock market, when Wall Street drops 1,000 points, that is not a stock market. That is not a collapse of the currency of the world. Now, did you catch this? You are going to see Wall Street have some major problems in coming days. But when you see it drop 1,000, maybe even 1,500 points, that is not the collapse that the elite are talking about. Again, when we see a currency devaluation of the dollar, the Federal Reserve note in America, that is not the financial collapse that the elite are talking about. We are going to have a currency devaluation. In fact, it was publicly announced today that the IMF has recommended this. I'm going to read it to you later in the course of the program. It just came out this morning, and it is startling beyond words. Now, a devaluation of the currency, it may be a devaluation 10, 20, 30, 40. I don't know what percentage it's going to be. I do know it's going to happen, and it could happen any time. It could happen tomorrow, but it won't. In fact, it won't happen until after January the 1st. But it's going to happen, a currency devaluation, but that is not the collapse the elite are talking about again. When gold drops $500 all at one time suddenly, that is not a financial collapse. Okay, are you ready? I'm going to give you the definition. Here it is. Quote, the collapse will take place after the Affordable Health Care Bill is fully implemented. Now think that through for a moment or two, and you will realize why I was so startled when I was hearing this definition. I was beside myself. Now, there's a reason why. And for this, I'm going back about 4.5 years ago. I mentioned the gentleman's name on the program just a moment ago. He was very prominent at Atlantic Richfield at the very top. And a little over 4 years ago, I was on the phone with this gentleman. And in the course of the conversation, we talked about many things. One thing he said was, Chaplain, there's going to be a health care bill presented before Congress. Now, nobody knew what was in it. It had only been hid about. Nobody had read it. He knew everything that was in it. And over the next few moments' time, he told me what the health care bill was going to be. And this was well over 4 years ago. I was dumbfounded, and I did not have the slightest idea what I was hearing. I know now. And so I asked him, I said, well, if this is not a health care bill, I said, if this is a health care bill, he said, no, Chaplain, this is not a health care bill. Now, did you catch this, folks? I hope you're getting this. This is monumental. And I said it, I think, on your show, Mills, once before. It's probably in the archives. I've said it on many shows across America that I was told this over 4 years ago. And now, of course, you're beginning to realize why. He went on to tell me that the health care bill, which today you know as the Affordable Health Care Bill that you're going to have to sign up for, he went on to say that this is the final straw. This is the complete total control of the American people. He said, first of all, there is the Patriot Act. And then he said there's the health care bill. And he said when the health care bill is fully implemented, he said we will have total, full control over every facet of every person's life. And for all practical purposes, we'll be able to bring into fruition of the new world order in its fullest. Now,
Scary stuff.
Yes, Bill, go ahead.
Oh, very scary stuff. Reverend, listen, don't break your train of thought. We have a caller who's calling us from the United Kingdom, and because he's paying for this long-distance phone call, I want to let him ask his question, and then we can proceed, if that's all right with you.
Please do, Mills. Anytime we have a caller, please feel free to accept them.
Gary, welcome. And where are you calling from?
Hi. Yeah, I'm calling from just outside London. And
thank you for being there.
No, thank you, Dad. I just want to say, just real quick, one Christian to another, thank the pastor for everything that he's done over these years, and much love to him and everything. And I hope he can continue to do what he's doing, on the build up to the crash and through the crash, and just help us all through it, because I know a lot of people are, hanging on his every word. I've just got a question, if he doesn't mind. I know I might be jumping ahead a bit here, but basically I've seen his new DVD, and it talks obviously about China in it, and I know he hasn't really spoken about China on the radio so much. My question really is, if he doesn't mind answering, is that he's saying that about China collapsing before the big currency collapse, the worldwide currency collapse. So, is that really going to happen before? How far before? I'm trying to get a kind of time frame on this. Are we expecting that maybe next year, early 2015, a year away, something like that?
Well, let's go to the definition that my lead
We
friend
have
gave.
a commercial break. I apologize.
That's all right.
And we'll get your answer immediately following this. And Gary from the United Kingdom, I really appreciate your listening and calling in.
I appreciate you guys,
Well, thank you, sir. Let's get Reverend Williams' answer.
When the collapse takes place, it will be every currency in the world. It will be Great Britain. It'll be America, China, India, the euro. It'll all be at the same time because they're going to use the derivative market to do it. Now, when will it take place and what will happen in China? Let's go to the time frame that this man gave me. He said the collapse will take place after the Affordable Health Care Bill is fully implemented. Now, remember that our president delayed this for corporations and large businesses for 1 year. It will not take place until January the 1st, 2015. Just today, you heard it talked about for the last few days, but just today, they announced that there is a very good possibility that they're going to delay it for the average American citizen for possibly 3 months. We got that word just this morning. Now, how long this delay will take place, we're not quite sure. I know that it must be implemented fully before this takes place. I am led to believe that China is in big trouble right now, and very well we could see the products that you purchase in your Walmart, Target, grocery store, whatever it may be, from China. There may come a time before the collapse of the currencies that those products may not be there merely because of internal problems in China. It very well could take place before that time.
Right. Yeah, so this is what I got from your DVD, that China, you know, when we see China go, then we're going to be pretty close to the, you know, the final currency collapse. So that is the point. China is supposed to go first. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I haven't been given that word. All I know is that China will go and will not be exempt any more than America or Great Britain or any other place. I would, if I could guess, as an individual reading between the lines, I would say yes, that you'll probably see after the first of the year some rumblings of internal problems in China.
Yeah. Okay, can I ask just one more question? Then I'll go on. Is that all right? Obviously, here in the UK, it's different. I mean, it's a question about mortgages. And I've heard everything that you've said in the past about, you know, because the Fed's buying mortgage-backed securities, and therefore the Fed owns everybody's house, basically. But over here in the UK, it's different. The Bank of England isn't buying mortgage-backed securities, I think, as far as I know. And they're not printing, you know, money like America is, for example. They have done, obviously. But so over here it's a bit different. So, Pastor, have you got any word about, you know, UK mortgages? Are we basically in the same boat? Anyone with a mortgage in the UK, have they basically lost it when the collapse comes? Because, you know, obviously they won't have the currency to pay for the mortgage. They won't be able to pay their property taxes, what we call council taxes. Have we basically had it as well over here?
Any person who has a mortgage on their house or car, automobile, whatever it may be, if you have a mortgage, there's always the possibility that you can't pay that mortgage, and when you can't pay the mortgage or you can't pay the payment, that's exactly what the elite want in that New World Order. They want to bring the economy to the point that you can't make that payment, and when you can't, they merely step in and repossess. So wherever you may be in the world, the danger is in the fact that you have a mortgage, no matter who may own it, whether it be the Federal Reserve or whether it be the bank that you took it out from. The mere fact that you can't make the payment is when the New World Order steps in and takes over the possession. So the danger is in the mortgage.
Let me ask you this, Reverend. I have speculated that the reason they would do that is they will throw you out of your home and they will replace you with 5 families of illegals who will each pay rent. So they have a cash cow out of your property. Is that accurate?
That's accurate, especially in America. But keep in mind, the one thing they want is ownership. And that's the reason they have pulled out of thin air and are using approximately $45 billion a month to buy mortgage-backed securities, is merely because they want the ability that when they do collapse the currency, to step in and say, well, you can't make the payment, so now we'll take over. Now, whether they turn around and rent that house back to you and your posterity for the rest of your days, or whether they give it to a dozen families that are on poverty list, by the same token, they take it over. And that's what they want.
Yeah, just to say that, because there's not a lot of land in the UK. I mean, we're obviously tiny compared to the States. And to think that, like, half the people or whoever in the UK with mortgages would be suddenly thrown out of their house, I just can't see it. I mean, where would they go? There really would be an uprising at that point. I mean, I know they don't want the uprising, but people would just go mad. I I mean, they've surely got to let people just stay in the house, take the deeds away and say, right, that's it, you're going to rent for the rest of your life. You've lost the property essentially, but you can still live there. Because I can't see half of Britain suddenly being kicked into the street. We've got nowhere to go.
Well, I don't think they'll throw you out. That's not the purpose of what the New Year World Order is doing. See, the last thing in the world that the elite want at this point is riots. They want to keep them down every way they can. They do not want civil unrest in the country. They want to bring this thing about in such a manner that everybody will want what they have to give to you. You'll beg for a new currency. You'll ask for them to build our economy back again. And they're not going to throw you out of your house. That's not what they're after. They want the ownership and control. I have said for 38 years, before I knew a lot of the things that are going on right now, back when I lived with the elite, the name of the game is control. That's what it's all about. Everything boils down to that. So if they can own that house, but let you stay in it and pay rent for the rest of your life, they're satisfied.
Yeah. Very bleak.
Gary, how did you learn about our station?
I learned about it through Lindsey's website, actually, funnily enough. I just linked to some of the links on there, and I found out, the schedule, and found that he was on, and I've heard you before through Lindsey's site.
I really appreciate you being here. Don't be a stranger. It'll always be a pleasure to hear from you.
I appreciate you too, guys, and let's just hope that Jesus comes back soon, because, it's, how much longer can we go on with this, you know what I mean? So,
that will happen. The problem is that apparently we're going to go through hell before it does.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, no, thank you, guys. Take care. God bless.
Garrett, welcome. You're on K-Talk.
Hello?
Yes, welcome.
Hi, good to talk to you. I have a question. The Bible verse, Matthew 22:21, where Jesus says, give to Caesar what is Caesar's and to God what is God's. That's basically telling us to give to the government what is to the government's and whatever is to God's. And if they impose this up on us, this, New World Order and this perhaps a chip, wouldn't God have we're basically being put in a predicament where, wouldn't God have the mercy to, being that God is a God of love and a God of mercy, wouldn't he give us a break?
Many of you in Utah recognize the name of Cleon Skousen. He was one of the greats of our time and probably one of the greatest constitutional writers of our time, and he was also of your faith. And I knew Cleon well. In fact, I spoke at the Century Club. I think we need to interpret that scripture that you just gave correctly. Now, think about it for a moment. In the time that that scripture was written, Rome was a dictatorship, and Caesar was a god. Now, in the United States of America today, we do not have a dictatorship, and we do not have a god. Oh, I know he thinks he is, but he's not. And I won't mention his name. But we don't have that. In America, still today, it hasn't changed yet, we have a constitutional republic. Now, under a constitutional republic, who is Caesar? Please, you must get this. Then you know who to obey. Now, look in the Constitution itself, and you will find that it says that the supreme law of the land in the United States of America is the Constitution of the United States. It's still there intact, hasn't been changed yet, and it's not going to be changed if a lot of us have anything to do about it. Now, the supreme law of the land would be Caesar. And who is the supreme law of the land in the United States of America? The Constitution. And who is it that determines what the Constitution is all about? The first few words. We, the people. So in the United States of America, who are you required as a Christian and believing the Bible as I do and as you do, who are you required by biblical dictate? Who are you required to obey in the United States of America? If you lived in Rome, you would be required to obey Caesar in everything he said. if you live in the United States of America, you are required to obey the Constitution of the United States of America if you're biblically correct. And if you are, then we don't have a Caesar. We have a constitutional republic. And who is it that determines what the constitutional republic really is? The first few words, we the people. With that in mind, then you know who to obey.
Okay. And then also, one more question. How come you're not on Fox News, CNN, and all of the major media outlets?
The very people who give me information are their children who are now in the leadership in the elite and in the New World Order. Those people know good and well who I am. In fact, over the years, I've been threatened by them twice, and it wasn't very pleasant. No, they wouldn't dare allow me on one of their medias. That's the reason I appreciate so much people like Mills Crenshaw, because I have at least an opportunity to tell you what some of these people are telling me.
Thank you very much, sir. God bless you.
Thank you. Appreciate the call. 801-254-5855. Rick, welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Mills, and thanks, Pastor Williams. I really appreciate you coming on Mills' show. I really take a lot of trust in what you say. My question is, I believe that there has been technology for the last few decades that would allow us to get even a couple 100 miles on a gallon of gas on our vehicles, and that Nikola Tesla technology would allow us to have very cheap electricity, but the powers that be that own the power companies are withholding this technology from us. Have they ever talked about that?
Yes, I've had it alluded to, but it really doesn't matter, because you see, we have enough crude oil just on the North Slope of Alaska to last America over 200 years if we imported no additional oil whatsoever, and that is the projected rate of increased consumption in America. Gasoline should be, if it were where the proper level would be, it should be somewhere between 50 and 60 cents a gallon today because of what we have right here in our own country. It so happens that, and I'll use this name, Mills, if you don't mind, a number of years ago, there was one individual who was rather prominent, and maybe I shouldn't use his name, and he called. He said to me one day, he said, Chaplain, I've had you on my show a number of times. He said, Dr. Stan Monteith, he said, I've had you on my show a number of times. He said, I need to prove what you're saying really to be true. He said, I don't like just taking a chance on the possibility. And I said, okay, I will give you the gentleman's name. I gave him his name, and I gave him his phone number at Prudhoe Bay, Alaska. And he actually called and talked with him and said, is what Lindsey Williams saying true? Dr. Stan got the most unusual response. The gentleman came back and said in that long robe from down south, he said, well, yes. And he said, Lindsey Williams has only told part of it. He said, there's more up here than what he even knows about. Well, they went on to carry on the conversation, and until this day, he will verify the fact that he actually talked to the gentleman who gives me information today. He never would talk to anybody after that. But he verified the fact that it was true. So really, it's not how many miles we get from the automobile. It's how much we have, and we could produce it for, and give us back our great American dream.
Yeah, but if you had a car that got 200 miles per gallon of gas, that would be a lot less pollution we'd be putting in the atmosphere. And, there's less gas that we would have to, less oil that we would have to be drilling for. But would you say that they are hiding technology from us?
Oh, positively. They have bought out many, many people that have developed something that will work.
Okay. And if you were to expose names, they would take care of you as like you would disappear or die, right?
Well, I had a phone call. It was about 5 years ago now. And I knew the man well. I spent hours and days with him up at Prudhoe Bay. And on the other end of the line, he was livid. He was so angry. I had said some things that I shouldn't say. And I think I know just how far to go. I tell you everything I can, but I don't tell you everything because I wouldn't be alive as long as John F. Kennedy if I did. And he said, Chaplain, you can't do this. He said, you got to quit this. He said, either you do this, 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 and this, or he said, we're going to do this, 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 and this. And what he said was not pleasant at all. And I said, okay, where do you want me to start? I said, I'm not going to take a chance. And he said, well, I'm glad you're going to cooperate. He said, first of all, pull your website. And I didn't have a website for about 4 years, and I still don't have one. I'm adding Great Britain handles. And a number of other things he said you can't do. So, yes, if I divulge certain things, yeah, I'd last probably just about that long.
Well, I'd have to say that probably most of the people that you know, most of us have never heard of, but I would have to say the names that I would think would be Henry Kissinger, the Rockefellers, and the Rothschilds as a few. But anyway, I really appreciate you answering my question. Thanks.
Thank you. Appreciate the call. The guest is the Reverend Lindsey Williams. Reverend, you just heard the commercial that I've been running for precious metals. And I get asked by people, is this really something that's important? And you are free to answer any way you think appropriate. But for me, I plead with people constantly, look, you've got to take these precautions. And I guess they're sick of hearing it from me.
Well, if they're sick of hearing it from you, they definitely will hear it from me. I've been saying it now for a number of years, and it is life-threatening important that you call Mills Crenshaw and get that silver that he has for you, because it is going to spare your dinner table, and it is going to save your house. When the New World Order brings about a collapse of the currencies, you aren't going to have anything except what the Bible calls real currency, and that's all you're going to have left. The paper is going to be worthless. If it is written on a piece of paper, it is worth the paper it's written on. Now, I'd like to answer your question, Mills, with what happened on the 17th, Thursday, the 17th. I think that is 1 week ago. Thursday, the 17th of October. And if you heard about it, I want to fill in the pieces, and you will know why you positively must give Mills Crenshaw an opportunity to help you spare your household. And, okay, what happened on Thursday, 1 week ago? Chase Bank sent a letter to every business account that they have. No matter what it may be, if you got it from Chase, my friend got it. He owns a large business in Scottsdale, Arizona, and he received one of these letters because he has a business checking account. And the letter said that as of November the 17th, Chase Bank is going to limit withdrawals, and they positively will ban all international wire transfers. When I heard this, I had to go to a person that I know personally, has known him for 20 years or better, and I said, I would like to make an appointment with you to come over and talk to you about it. I went to his office and sat down and talked with him for an hour or so, and here's the story. This individual does probably well over $1 million worth of business with Chase, probably every few weeks, if not every week. And he sends a lot of wire transfers because he's a gold and silver dealer. And I'll not mention his name. You go to Mills. He's going to help you. This individual said to me, he said, Chaplain, do you realize that after November the 17th, I will not be able to buy abroad anymore? And I said, well, try to fill me in. He said, on any given day, he said, I can buy gold or silver from London, from Switzerland, from South Africa, and many other countries. He said, if any customer comes to me and wants some, he said, I buy it wherever is necessary in order to get what they want, whether it's $500,000, $1 million, or $2 million. He said, I can handle any amount. And he said, we get it. But he said, after November the 17th, I will not be able to do that. I said, why? He said, the moment I call London and ask for X number of coins, he said, the first thing they say to me is, wire me the money. And they said the moment we receive the wire, which of course is instantaneous, he does it right there from his office in just a few moments' time, and the moment that wire is received by London, they will immediately ship the goods, the gold, silver, whatever it may be, to the dealer, and they in turn supply it for their customer. After November the 17th, Chase, now this is going to be followed by every bank. I know Chase was the first one to do this, and they have sent out the letters. If you have a business account, you've gotten it. You ask your secretary, she'll tell you that she got it, whether she's shown it to you yet or not. And Bank of America, Wells Fargo, every single one of them are going to follow suit with this within the next probably 30 to 60 days. And he said, Chaplain, I do business with Chase, and he said, I will not be able to send a wire transfer abroad anymore after November the 17th. He said, the only gold and the only silver that I will be able to get is what I can purchase within the United States of America, whether I buy it from a customer or whether I buy it from a source here in America. And he said, Chaplain, I want to warn you. He said, the day is coming very shortly where gold and silver supply is going to dry up. I hope you're catching this, people. I'm begging you. I plead with you. You've got to call Mills Crenshaw and buy every single piece of silver that he possibly has got. You've got to wipe him out for the sake of your dinner table. I'm not saying this just because I'm on the Mills Crenshaw show. I've said this on 2 other shows this week that were not even related to gold and silver, and I don't even know that they advertised on that program anybody that did. But I have told people that you positively must immediately, before January the 1st, you've got to. Every piece of paper you've got around there, every Federal Reserve note you've got, I plead with you to cash it in for something that is real, and you've got to get gold and silver. And this dealer said to me, he said, Chaplain, after November the 17th, I'm not guaranteeing anything. And he said, after January the 1st, I don't have the slightest idea what may happen because many things are coming down the pike. And he said, anybody that wants it, they better get it immediately.
Well, and
Bills?
And Reverend, the thing that is so frustrating to me is I talk to people about their 401ks. And right now, today, they can convert this into precious metals without penalty. I get a lot of people who say, look, the government's already talking about confiscating 401ks. I'm going to pay the penalty and take physical possession. That's up to them. But what are 401ks going to be worth after January?
Well, you must be reading my mind today, Mills. I did pray before I went on your show today and asked the Lord to give us His personal presence on this show. I do this because without Him I can do nothing. And you must be reading my mind. I want to read you this. It was announced this morning. This very morning, this was announced. I want to read you. The IMF just made a statement today. It was released. The decision was made back on October the 9th of 2013 in one of their monetary fund IMF meetings. But the announcement was officially made this morning, and I want to read it to you. The IMF is recommending, I'm going to read you the exact statement now. The IMF is recommending increased taxes and instituting new capital controls and exit regulations for seizing American investment equity. I'm reading you verbatim their word. Let me go back again. You may be absorbing this. I hope you're a sponge and you're getting it. The IMF is recommending to the United States of America increased taxes, instituting new capital controls, exit regulations for seizing American institutions' equity, IRAs, 401ks, to pay down outstanding debts to pre-crisis 2007 levels. According to the IMF, this move will restore global debt sustainability, which is to say our government will be free to run up more debt again, and debt-ceiling flights in Washington will not cause future bedwetting. These are the exact words of of the International Monetary Fund. I read you verbatim what they said. And what
We're talking about stealing the retirement funds of common citizens in the United States.
Well, I'm going to give you a prediction based on what my elite friend has told me. Are you ready?
Yeah.
There are some things that are going to happen, and more than likely they'll happen either between now and January the 1st or shortly after. Okay, let me get down here in my notes just a little further. I plan to give this later in the program, but I'll give it right now. There are going to be certain things that you can expect to happen. And as I mentioned, you've got some dates here that you need to give some definite consideration to. First of all, there is going to be a confiscation and nationalization of pension funds. Now, I'm using some of these big words because those are the exact words that have been used to me. And whenever I write these things down, I try to say it as they say it. There's going to be a confiscation and a nationalizing of pension funds, 401ks, IRAs, the federal retirement. You heard me correctly. Federal retirement pension funds, state retirement pension funds, private pension funds. Now, I want to tell you how they're going to do it. Now, you've set the stage for this, Mills, so please bear with me if I give you some things here that feel rather startling. I want to tell you how they're going to do it. 3 weeks ago, the country of Poland did this. Now, the reason I know is because my wife came here from Poland, and she has close relatives and friends over there. And 3 weeks ago, the country of Poland announced one morning, without any warning whatsoever, never said anything about it ahead of time, the country of Poland announced that they were going to remove 50% of all the money from the private pension funds of everybody in the country of Poland. And they did that morning. They took 50% of the pension funds, confiscated it, and put it into taking care of the government debt. Did anybody riot the next morning? No. Were there any protests in the streets? No. Now, folks, are you getting this? Why? Because they received their checks next month. Now, remember, they only took 50%. How long is it going to be since they have confiscated 50% until there will be none because they have already taken 1/2 of it? A year, year and a half, maximum 2 years from now. Then the pension fund, which has already lost 50% because the government confiscated it, they'll one day announce, just like they've announced the confiscation, they'll announce, oh, there's no more money left here. It's all gone. There's no more Social Security. There's no more 401k. There's no more IRA. There's no more federal pension fund. Now, I have been told they will confiscate and nationalize pension funds. They will confiscate, I don't know what percentage. In Poland, they confiscated 50%. You go back and look in the records now, and you'll find it approximately 2 to 3 weeks ago. Now, what will happen in America whenever the government comes in and confiscates it and nationalizes those pension funds? Nothing. Oh, is there going to be riots? No, there's not. Why? Everybody in the pension fund will still get their check next month. And as long as they get their check, nobody's going to rise up in arms and do anything about it. They'll say, oh, well, they'll make it up to us. The economy is going to get better before very long and everything will be taken care of. Do you remember when I said a moment ago? I said the last thing in this world that the elite, the New World Order crowd wants, and I know I know some of them personally now, and I've known some of them personally for many years. The last thing they want is civil unrest. The last thing they want is riots in the streets. They may get it, and they're prepared for it if it comes, but they don't want it. And whenever they confiscate those pension funds, you'll still get your check the following month, so you won't rise up in arms. But it only kicks the can down the road, because a year to a year and a half from now, since that 50% is already gone, and you don't have things to leverage out there in the market, it'll all be gone. You'll have nothing. By that time, the New World Order will have been brought in to the point that more than likely you can't do anything about it. Mills, this is what concerns me to no end. And what you just said, those people positively must immediately call you and take care of that issue.
We're at the top of the hour. You're going to stay with us, I hope. Or you're listening to Drive Time Live, the Mills Crenshaw Show. telephone number 801-254-5855. That's academic. All of our lines are filled. My guest is Reverend Lindsey Williams, and if you have just joined us, you're way behind. We've learned a great deal of information. One of the things that was covered in the first hour, Reverend Williams said that when the banks close, you will lose your money, and that's when, not if. When the banks close and you lose your money, that isn't the collapse yet. When Wall Street drops 1,000 points, that isn't the collapse yet. There will be a huge currency devaluation, but which means that your money won't buy anything much anymore, but that still is not the major collapse. That the timeline is such, he has been told by a member of the elite establishment, that the final collapse will not come until after the Affordable Care Act is fully implemented, which is being argued today in Congress, and they're talking about maybe some kind of a compromise in the neighborhood of maybe 6 months before it's fully implemented. Have I stated this correctly, Reverend?
Yes, you're exactly right, Mills. Everything you have said is true.
This is scary stuff. And an off-air caller asked, people with no savings, no extra dollars, what do they do? What happens to those of us who are dependent on Social Security after the collapse? What do we do? Let me tell you some of the things I've been suggesting to people, and I want you to correct me if I am in error on any of this. I have suggested that the first thing people should do is get some food storage in. Food storage, medicine, warm clothes, arms and ammunition, and then they need to get into tangibles like gold and silver, which they can trade for incidentals, food, fuel, etc. Are the priorities out of whack? What are your statements on this?
Well, what you just said is what the leaders of your church, the LDS Church out in Utah, have been saying for years. And I think they probably foresaw some things. So, yes, everything you just said is true.
Any other steps that we need to take?
Well, I think right now, in light of what's inevitable, it's on your doorstep, whether we like it or not, is this affordable health care bill. And I would like to ask you to do what your caller suggested a moment ago. You had a caller in the first part of the program from Great Britain, and you asked the caller how he knew about the Mills Crenshaw show and to listen in today. And he said that he had gone to my website, lindseyWilliams.net. Your show today, Mills, was put up by the webmaster 2 days ago, as soon as you confirmed you wanted me to be on the show today. And many people are probably listening to the show because they saw it on lindseyWilliams.net. I want you to do something for me after the program today. Now, don't change the dial right now. But please, after the program, go to lindseyWilliams.net, LINDSEY, Williams.net, not .com, but .net. I want you to read something that's there. By the way, this website is free. It won't cost you a penny. Just go on the web and look it up. And you will find there a brief that was written by a retired attorney. Yes, very prominent attorney. You'll see his name. Everything's there. We don't hide anything. And after he retired, he read the entire 3,200 pages of the Affordable Health Care Bill, and he wrote a brief. Now, it's not a book. It's a brief. It's just a few pages long. But if I could put it in simple vernacular, it'll curl your toenails, so to speak. I'm just using that as a phrase. It won't do that, but it will startle you to no end. You need to read that brief written by the retired attorney, and when you do, you will understand why I was told over 4 years ago by one of the elite who had read the bill, knew everything that was in it, and I'm quite sure he had something to do with forming all the opinions that are in it. And their attorneys wrote it, presented it to Congress, and Mrs. Pelosi said, let's just pass the bill and then we'll find out what's in it. Well, you're finding out what's in it today the hard way, and you'll understand why I was told before it was ever presented before Congress that this is not a health care bill. It has nothing to do with health care. This bill is the final control factor of the people, the money, everything about you, everything is there. It is the final control factor. Please read that brief by the retired attorney. Go to lindseywilliams.net. And while you're there, please look at the DVD that I produced after I was given this information in August. Now, in August, that's nearly 2 months ago. In August, when I was told by my elite friend what's going to happen and when the collapse would take place, I was so frightened until I didn't dare go on any radio show. In fact, I want to thank you, Mills. Your producer is very kind. You were so kind as to, he's called me probably a half a dozen times recently, and said, Chaplain Williams, would you please, Mills has asked me if you'd come on his show. And I said, I can't. And I said, please don't be offended. I just can't do it right now. I was not on anybody's show. I mean, nobody's for 3 months' time. And you were kind enough to just keep on calling me, and I promised him I'd call when I decided to. Well, as of the first of this week, I decided I couldn't keep quiet any longer, and that's the reason I'm on your show today. But you'll understand why back when, in August, when I got this information, I went in the studio and produced an hour and 56-minute DVD presentation, professionally done, telling every bit of this, plus many other things that we wouldn't even have time if we took all 3 hours of your time today, Mills, in order to give it. I beg of you, for the sake of your family and your friends, get my latest DVD presentation. And the reason it was announced, because those who are on my email list at lindseywilliams.net, we sent out a note to them about a month ago saying this is available. And it wasn't even announced to the public yet, but just to those on my email list, you may want to get on it. But please go there and get Elite Emergency Data. It's a new DVD we just came out with, Elite Emergency Data. And I've got so much here.
I really strongly recommend everybody who's listening do exactly that. There's no way we can cover everything in this show. And as much as we try and do it, the information is voluminous and it's powerful. You dare not miss it. Greg, I'm sorry, go ahead. Greg?
Those of you who do not necessarily like to use the internet, and I don't at my age, you might want to use our toll-free number. And our toll-free number during office hours is 888-799-6111, and you'll talk with an American operator, 888-799-6111, Mills.
I'll ask my producer, who also handles our blog, to put your number up on the blog as well.
Okay, Mills, I thank you very kind for having me on here. You've been very kind. Reverend Williams, thank you also for coming on to Mills' program, because I think, having been an insider like you were, you are very, very privileged to know things that those of us on the outside do not understand. The question I have of you is this. The date, 9/11, does that ring a bell with you in any way?
Oh, yes, that's what happened at the Twin Towers.
Now, does that suggest to you that it may have been an inside job, i.e., an American operation rather than an operation from the East?
There are numerous very well documented DVDs that I have viewed since 9/11 that indicate the fact that there's no way in the world that a jet aircraft hitting the top of that tower could possibly have disintegrated it from the base. And I think if anyone watches those, they'll be fairly well convinced.
Okay, then the next question I have, both Mills and myself are very well acquainted with a gentleman that is a United States Senator, has been one for about 6 or 7 terms now, Senator Orrin Hatch from Utah. Where do you, in your opinion, where does he really stand in this whole thing?
I have not the slightest idea. First of all, I am not in Utah, and I very seldom watch Utah politics. My elite friends, about the only thing they ever give to me is what's happening in the financial world or something like this health care bill. And I have decided over these 38 years that I've never been wrong because everything they've told me has been right. I've decided never to speculate on where certain things are. So as a result, unless I have been told something directly by them, I try to refrain from talking about it.
Okay, I got you. Last question. There was established in 1933 or about 1933 a mechanism to put controls on the Federal Reserve and that kind of a thing. It was called the Glass-Steagall Act. Are you aware of that act?
Yes, and I have heard them refer to it, but I don't know the details of what's in it. But I've heard a lot about it, especially lately.
Well, it was our own illustrious Senator Orrin Hatch who helped to dismantle that and take it out of commission about 10 years ago. I certainly appreciate you coming on the Mills program, and thank you, Mills, for letting me come on.
Thank you. Chris, welcome.
Hi, Lindsey. Hi, Mel. Hey, thanks for letting me on. You know, I tend to believe you, Lindsey, about these predictions. I tend to believe the story about when you were down up in Alaska. One criticism, and it's a constructive criticism that I would like to offer you, is you seem to be a little vague on dates. And I know you say after certain events occur. Well, for example, you said that after Obamacare is fully implemented, will the collapse be realized? Well, the problem with that, 10 years from now, if a collapse does not occur, well, you could say, well, Obamacare hasn't been fully implemented because he made an exception for this small group or that small group. I would appreciate if you could maybe use more specific dates or at least time frames so that we can pin you down a little easier. And I think it would lend a little more credibility to your claims. What do you think about that?
The only thing that I ever feel free to give out is what they tell me. For instance, one day I was told by one of the elite, they said, why don't you go to a certain place, Chaplain, and you will find the definition that we just gave to the world of what the next collapse is going to be like. Now, this sounds strange, but I'll give it to you so you'll understand why. I refrain from ever giving anything except exactly as they say it, and then people have to make up their own minds how they want to accept it. Of course, over 38 years, it's never been wrong. And this individual said to me, he said, Chaplain, if you will go to the New York Times, and he said it's dated April the 2nd, 2013. You can do this, by the way, for yourself. And he said, there you will find the definition that we have just written as to what the next collapse is going to be like. I was dumbfounded because I've been asked so many times on radio shows, Chaplain Williams, what's the next? It's going to be like the Great Depression of 29 through 33. I never had a definition. And I could not tell people it's going to be exactly this until they gave me the definition one day on the phone and said, go to this place and you will find our actual definition of what the next collapse is going to be. And so I began giving it on the radio shows. And
hold that thought, Reverend. We've got to make a commercial break, and when we come back, please. Okay, Reverend, will you give us that definition, please?
Yes, it was in the New York Times. It was on April the 2nd, 2013. It was written by David Stockman. In fact, the title of the article is Stockman Chaplain warns of crash of the Fed-fueled bubble economy. And here's the definition. America will descend into an era of zero-sum austerity and violent political conflict, extinguishing even today's feeble remnants of economic growth. Just one sentence, that they say everything. You can't imagine how important it is. And to them, this is their warning. Remember, when I lived with the elite, one of the things I found out early on is that they tell you everything they're going to do before they do it. That's right. It's part of their ethic code to tell you everything they're going to do. They may do it through a movie. They may do it through some newscast they give somewhere. They may give it through an article like this. But knowing them, he just said to me, he said, Chaplain, if you'd like to know and you want to tell others what it's going to be like, then he said, here is our definition. And they wrote it behind closed doors in order to be able to give to you so that you can make preparations accordingly.
Scary stuff. 801-254-5855. Diane, welcome.
Hi. First of all, I wanted to hear what Jackie Kennedy said when she crawled across the back of the limo.
All right, Reverend, as a promo for the show, I mentioned on air that you knew what Jackie Kennedy said as she crawled over the back of the car. Can you share that with us?
Yes. In fact, people close by heard her saying, they got him. That was her words as she crawled over the back of the limo. She knew who they were, and she died knowing who they were. Bobby Kennedy also dying knowing a lot of secrets, not only Chappaquiddick, but who killed his brother. But that was the end of it. Yes, they got him. So she knew who.
Having talked to you before this show, I know there are some things you dare not say. Is it fair to say, however, that you know who was responsible for his death?
Yes, I think that would be fair to say. And the reason I can say that, well, really, there's two reasons. If you watch the Zapruder film, you can see for yourself who shot him. Once it was in the front, once it was in the back. He was shot by numerous people, not just one. So it's no secret. Just look at the Zapruder film and you'll know it. Secondly, I know it because one of the two times that I had been threatened by the elite was when I was giving out this information. And they said to me, they said, Chaplain, you never give that lecture again. And if you do, you give it at your own peril, so to speak. Those weren't the exact words. And since then, I have merely said what I've just said. Yes, it's quite obvious. Just watch the Zapruder film, and you'll see for yourself that he was shot numerous times. Even the doctors who did the autopsy verified the fact that he was shot more than once.
I interviewed on a much closer proximity a Dr. Crenshaw, no relation, who was present at the autopsy. And he made it very clear that the autopsy information that is contained in the official report was changed, and that it was falsified.
I don't know the gentleman, but I'm quite sure he knows some things that I don't. Yet on the other hand, I don't think there's any question whatsoever but that if John F. Kennedy had been allowed to live, we would have no national debt today. The American people would have owed the debt to themselves.
Interesting. Any follow-up, Diane?
Yes, I was thinking about Lindsey Williams' position with these people. I believe that they use him because it's a nice way for us to break the news. Instead of it just being a shock, and if you're shocked with something like this, you might revolt, you might strike back. But to have it told so nicely and matter-of-factly, as though there's nothing we can do about it, it disables us. It's like a fatalistic type of situation where you're just a sheep, and this is what's happening to you, and you can't do anything about it. And I think that we should at least try to, instead of just saying, oh, let's prepare, let's get through, let's get gold, to try to take a more proactive stance and say, no, we're going to throw all the, like you say, Mills, all the bums out. We're going to be more active as a society and more involved and stop this from happening. These people, I can't imagine that every single FBI agent is corrupt. Why don't these FBI agents tap Lindsey Williams' phone and trace the calls and dig up the information and get these guys on whatever? You know, it doesn't seem like what they're doing is upfront and honest and legal.
Lindsey, what would you say to that?
Well, I agree with the dear lady. And in fact, I appreciate her call immensely. I've thought about this many times, and I want to say that I agree with you. They do use me. You know, there's some times in life that you like to be used because in doing so you can be helped by others. In fact, when I was 18 years of age and God called me to the gospel ministry, and I've been a pastor and a minister ever since, I am more than happy for God to use my life. I want God to use me. And the Bible says that we should allow him to. There are times in life when you want to be used because if you are, you can help others. And I feel that I have been able to spare many people grave, grave heartache by telling you what the elite are going to do. And if you take it to heart, for instance, right now, Mills, and this is such a glorious opportunity for me to express this, do you realize that everybody out there in your listening audience, that if they stop this affordable health care bill, that you're going to be putting one of the biggest kinks into the elite's program that you could ever imagine? I think this thing through. They must have this affordable health care bill before they can implement the New World Order. And you realize how close we are to being completely disgruntled with this thing? Everybody up there in Washington is realizing that they have problems on their hands. This thing is one glorious mess. And if there's some way that we could put a kink in it, we could stop it, we could bring it to an end, we could repeal it, anything that can be done. Just merely the fact that my elite friend told me that the collapse will take place after the Affordable Health Care Bill is fully implemented. All you've got to do is not implement it, and they are in a mess because they won't have the laws necessary to do to you what they want to do to you after the New World Order. I feel honored that I would know this information so that I can help you know what to do about it.
Interesting. Thank you, Diane. I appreciate your call. Chris, welcome, sir.
Hi, this is Chris again. Here's my take on what he said. Am I on the air?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think that they will do anything harsh or rash until after Obama's term is over as president. And here's why. I don't think they want to collapse under an overtly socialist president. I think they're going to wait and we'll get a Republican who claims to be a conservative, although we know he's not, because there is no such thing, at least not in Washington. So I don't think this whole business is going to come down until after it appears to be under a president who supports the free enterprise system, and then they'll blame it on the free enterprise system, obviously. So that's my take on it. You guys can comment on that or what?
Well, I have no comment, but I would like to hear what Reverend Lindsey has to say. Thank you.
I have been on conversations with the elite numbers of times since Mr. Obama was put in office. They have had some big, big problems with him. It has not been a bed of roses between the elite and Mr. Obama. They wanted that pipeline across Canada, and he canceled it out, and they were livid. In fact, I was on the phone with one of them the next day. In fact, I have his email in my file until yet. And he was telling, this man better watch out. he's overstepping his bounds. Let's see, there was another one. I think it was there was a bill that he had put through that they didn't want. I'll look in my notes here and get it in just a moment, maybe. There was a bill that they positively did not want to put in place, and he did, and they were very upset at him. There are a number of times that this man has come very, very close to some catastrophic something in relation to the elite. Yes, I think he's getting close enough to the end of his term, and this is to our advantage. You know, to me, it's exciting to think of the fact that the collapse is not going to take place until after the Affordable Health Care Bill is implemented, because it gives us time to do something about it. I mean, to me, this is wonderful. We've got to go out there. We've got to get in touch with all congressmen. We've got to try to put a kink in this thing every way we possibly can. You need to buy every ounce of gold you can get from Mills Crenshaw, because banks now are having to take action in relation to what they see in the Affordable Health Care Bill. And yes, it very well could be that they'll wait until after his term, but this gives us more time to do something about it, which is a wonderful opportunity, Mills.
I agree. Unfortunately, everything you're pointing to says we need to take action before the end of the year.
Well, you've got to take action before the end of the year, because it will be before the Affordable Health Care Bill is fully implemented. Before that time, all right, Chase Manhattan Bank has already said what they're going to do on November the 17th. It's going to affect your ability to be able to buy the one thing that will, after all the dust settles, will still be there, which is gold and silver, which I'm recommending you call Mills immediately after the program day again. You definitely are going to see the pension funds tapped into. The government right now is desperate for money. I mean, they are beside themselves. They need money so bad. But the revenues are falling because people aren't working. You realize that 50% of the Americans today receive some sort of check from either the federal or the state government every month. And with the tax revenues aren't there coming in like they used to. The Chinese are not buying our bonds that the Federal Reserve issues, and Japan's not buying them. And so the revenues are drying up drastically. Government is desperate for every penny they can get. You are going to see that. Just watch this, and when you see it, don't call Mills Crenshaw and say, how in the world do I get in touch with Lindsey Williams? I got to talk to him. Don't do that. You are going to see those pension funds tapped into in a very short period of time, I believe. I'm not saying a week or a month. It may be sooner, maybe longer, but I've already told it'll be done. And the IMF has suggested it. Again, you're going to see a devaluation of the currency. I do not know when. I have begged them to please get out of paper before January the 1st, because after January the 1st, I wouldn't guarantee anything. There's so many things you're going to see before that. We have just witnessed one of the greatest dog and pony shows in Washington that you could ever imagine that took place October 1 through 15, and they knew all the time what they were going to do. So with these things in mind, you've got a glorious opportunity right now to do some things about it.
Randy, welcome.
Yeah, I've been following Lindsey for quite a while. Lindsey, we had a discussion on this station yesterday about the elite. And one of the things that came up was what the religious affiliations of these elites is.
Oh, I'm glad you raised that.
I said to Mills that I had heard you say in the past that these people worship Lucifer in their own way. That they believe that Lucifer is the god of this world, and he gives them wealth. They're rewarded like Jesus was offered the whole world if he bowed down and worshiped Lucifer. That's one question, and I've got a couple other ones here before I get cut short here. But what do you say to that?
Let me clarify the expression religious affiliation. Now, normally when you and I think of religious affiliation, you think of the LDS Church, you think of the Baptist Church, the Catholic Church, Presbyterian Church. You think of some organized religion. when you use the word religious affiliation, I have never used that word in connection with the elite, but I did, you're correct, refer to the elite as far as religion is concerned on a show on yesterday. I well remember it. Now, if I could say that they have an affiliation as such, which really wouldn't be the proper term, but it would be Luciferian. Now, as far as religion is concerned, let me clarify the statement I made on yesterday. I said that they have a committee who actually studies the scriptures. I hope you're catching this. They really do. They know that there is some credibility to the Bible, and they do take into consideration the events that are recorded in the Bible. And I was told back at the beginning of 2012 that the elite were expecting some divine intervention in the very near future. And that was the reference that I made on the program on yesterday, that we actually had 2 divine interventions. Now, please write these down. We actually have had 2 divine interventions since I made my DVD back in August. Number 1 was the intervention in Syria. We were right ready to go to Syria. I mean, our president had everything over there, Army, Air Force, Navy, SEALs, everything imaginable. We were right ready to invade Damascus. And this is drastic, because Damascus is the oldest existing capital city on the face of the earth today.
And Netanyahu's still jumping up and down.
Hey, let him finish his point, please, Randy. Go ahead, Reverend.
Well, that's okay. If he has another question, I'll be glad to take it, but we were right ready to go in.
Point out that we were still working towards war with Iran and Syria.
Literally made our president look like an idiot. And as a result, you don't even hear about Syria anymore, even though they're still murdering people there all the time.
I hope for your future reference. Reverend, you were going to give us the second divine intervention.
Well, most of us, many of my friends who studied the scriptures avidly for many, many years, believe that Ezekiel chapter 38 and 39, and also Isaiah chapter 17 and chapter 40 in the Bible could have been fulfilled. I didn't say positively would have, because nobody knows, it didn't happen, but it could have been fulfilled if our president had gone into Syria and Damascus had been invaded. Very well could have fulfilled those scriptures, and it would have thrown us into the midst of what the Bible calls a tribulation period. The second thing I think was divine intervention is nearly everybody that I know, every talk show host that I'm closely affiliated with, had predicted something was going to take place in the month of October. And we've gone through October and have not had a single October surprise. And I knew in advance that we were not going to, because I had already been told that Mr. Bernanke was not going to taper on September the 18th. I told my friends in advance. I said he's not going to do it, and he didn't. And then we had a dog and pony show, October 1 through 15, which I told it was just a show and nothing but a photo op. And then in October, that there would be no October surprise. I wasn't the least bit concerned about a problem in October. And now, of course, we're coming up to sometime between now and January the 1st that you need to make all the preparation you possibly can. So I believe that we've had some divine interventions recently in order to give us some time to do the things that need to be done.
Kathy, welcome. You're on K-Talk.
Hi. Earlier, Chaplain Williams, you mentioned that the elitists said that they tell you ahead of time of what's going to happen. I've been listening on the radio and TV, and all they've been talking about is releasing an EMP. Do you think that's possible?
Whatever they need to do, depending on what they need, in order to be able to do what they want to do, they could do it. That word has not been mentioned to me. They have not said they're going to.
All right.
I do know that if their plans don't pan out, keep in mind, these people are not God. They just think they are. And they don't always get their way. They haven't gotten their way in Syria. Assad was supposed to have been gone 9 months ago, and they haven't been able to get him yet. So they don't always get what they want. They should already have been having problems in Saudi Arabia, and it's running behind nearly a year in their plan, according to what they told me 2 years ago when I did the Middle East, the Rest of the Story DVD series. So if they need to use something such as you have just mentioned. If they see the necessity, they will, but it's not been mentioned to me.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. 801-254-5855. Interesting because just yesterday I shared very briefly an announcement that I've heard absolutely nothing about on the mainstream media, and that is that Saudi Arabia has broken off diplomatic relations with the United States.
Yes, okay, forgive me for having to go back to these predictions, and you'll find that it was recorded 2 years ago in my DVD series, The Middle East, The Rest of the Story, and in there I listed the nations in the order in which the elite intended to give them to the Muslim Brotherhood in order to create the chaos they wanted to create in the Middle East, and Saudi Arabia was there. And about a month ago, I was on the phone with one of my friends, and he said, do you realize what's happening in a certain area of Saudi Arabia? And it was documented, I think, on the Death Car File and some other places. And Mills, I'm amazed you've already picked up on this, because just on, I think it was yesterday, I received an email talking about the problems in Saudi Arabia and the United States of America. We've got some drastic problems brewing there right now. And they're going to escalate to the point that eventually the elite will bring the Muslim Brotherhood into Saudi Arabia, and the Saudi family will have to flee.
Interesting. Scott, welcome. Hi.
Good afternoon.
Yes, Scott, welcome.
And thank you for having Lindsey Williams on. I have some questions for him. First of all, about the currency collapse. The Federal Reserve notes claim to be legal tender, so that's public and private. Are you saying they won't be useful for paying down mortgages and other debts, or it's simply that you won't be able to get them because the banks won't give them to you?
If they, if they diminish the value, if they have a currency devaluation.
What's the matter? You have a $100,000 mortgage. You bring in $100,000 in Federal Reserve notes. Why will they say, oh, they've been devalued 90%? That only pays it down to $10,000. Well, hey, they said they were $100,000. So what's the problem there?
So the problem is your ability to be able to pay when the country is in chaos to the point that you might lose your job, or the currency becomes worth less.
I realize that.
Or let's say it takes a wheelbarrow load of currency to be able to go to the grocery store and buy a loaf of bread, as it happened in Zimbabwe and a few other places.
Well, that's true, but it has nothing to do with an existing debt.
Yeah, then you won't have the ability to be able to make that mortgage payment, because putting food on the table for the family won't be first priority.
Now, I realize that it's different, but back in the 30s depression, the Federal Reserve notes were very hard to come by. That next question about the international wire transfers. You say it's going to be all institutions, so you can't even go to a credit union and make an international wire transfer as you've been able to in the past.
No, so I did not say that. I said that only Chase Bank so far,
right, and what are
said that they will not send any wire transfers after November the 17th, and it appears, from what I'm hearing, that the other banks are going to follow suit and do the same thing.
And if that's so, how will there be other imports and international travel and such things that require international funds transfers?
This is where it may cause some disruptions in our normal everyday way of life. I think there are going to be problems out of this that you'll see the results down the line. Just how drastic it's going to be, I'm not sure, but for right now, you've seen one bank already do it, the others are expected to.
And finally, you don't really have to answer this if you don't want to, but on October 4th, Thomas Sowell said that tax money kept coming into the Treasury during the shutdown and vastly exceeded interest that has to be paid on the national debt. Is he wrong, or is all this about an impending debt default bogus? Because the Federal Reserve note can roll over the Treasury securities if it needs to, just as long as they have the funds to pay the interest on the existing debt.
They will eventually, and this is not going to be within the next 6 months. I don't think even within the next year. Probably won't be within the next year and a half to 2 years. But at some point, the government of the United States of America will default on the debt.
So you think that's just a temporary situation. Hey, thank you very much. I appreciate your answer.
Appreciate the call. Richard, welcome.
Well, hey there, Mills. It's good talking to you.
My pleasure.
I've loved listening to you for some years. I've got a couple questions for you. One is this. You know, I'm a gentleman. I believe in food storage, and I've listened to you as far as the gold and silver and so forth. To me, you know, I got to say, I find that food is very important, and it's actually worth a lot more than the gold or silver. But would you say during this time of collapse, it would be better to have plenty of food storage for yourself plus extra to use for bartering back and forth with people?
I've always said, number one, the first thing to do is to get food.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't deal in food at the present time. I'm looking for a really high quality food storage company to act as a sponsor, but I don't deal in that. And yet I've always said that that's the number one thing to get. But there is a point at which you need something that's liquid that you can use for barter that is portable. And as valuable as bushels of wheat might be for a starving family, and in terms of barter, it's not very portable. Reverend Williams, what do you think?
There will be a one world currency under the new world order after they fully implement it after the collapse. And let's say that you have your food storage. Please get your food storage. I agree. Now, let's say that you have that food storage, but you go by for 6 months, 9 months, and it begins to deplete and give out. What are you going to use to buy some more? Federal Reserve notes, as we know them right now, you won't be able to use those. What are you going to use? There is one thing that you will always be able to cash in for whatever the new currency may be when it finally is implemented, and that is your gold or your silver. You can cash it in for the new currency. They are not going to control or put any controls on gold and silver because that is their currency, as I was told a number of years ago. Therefore, they're not going to let any controls be on it. And you can take that gold or silver, purchase the new currency, turn around and purchase the food that you need whenever you need it.
Okay. Lindsey, a second question, something I've been pondering about over time. Can you hear me well?
Yeah.
Okay. I've been pondering about this. You know, the Affordable Care Act. They need this to go ahead and pass. And sometime here in the future, I kind of figured within the next couple of years or so, they were going to go ahead and get this passed first. And then they were going to go ahead and say, you know, we need to be able to have something for records, to be able to have a digital record to tell who's what and whatever else. And because everybody's got to go ahead and be on this, at least into that mark of the chip, so to speak, you know, because you can't buy or sell, you can't do anything without this chip. Do you have any words to say, you know, concerning this? Because I know this is something that I think was taught in the Bible as being something that we should not take, and that was a big no-no from God. Any words?
What we are seeing happen before our eyes today is complete fulfillment of the Scriptures. I believe we're very close to those events talked about in the book of Revelation. And in the Affordable Health Care Act actually is a requirement for some sort of a device to be placed in the individual that keeps all of their medical records, all of their financial records, and can be contacted by certain sources anytime they wish. So this really is a reality right now already in the Affordable Health Care Act. They just haven't implemented it yet.
Wow. Someone such as myself, you know, I've always believed as God's law being the higher law and such. You know, I've been pondering just how to get away and stay away from this whole mark and the beast and all this other stuff, because
granted, I don't want to be one of those that takes such a thing.
May I make a suggestion? And I would welcome Reverend Williams' correction if he thinks I'm wrong. It seems to me that if you have, besides your own food storage and the essentials for survival, once you have that if you have precious metals that you can trade, you can acquire the things that are required in life without going through some governmental system, without having to rely on the mark of the beast. Because through millennia, not just centuries, but through millennia, both gold and silver have always been used for barter, trade, commerce, independent of governments, that they have an intrinsic worth of their own. Reverend Williams, would you disagree with that?
According to the scriptures, there are many, many, many people who will survive the tribulation period and be able to live a reasonable life, even during the period of time of the Antichrist. So in light of the scriptures, I'd have to agree with what you're saying, Mills.
Thank you for the call. John, your turn. Welcome.
Yes, thanks, Mills, for having me on the air, and I have a question for Lindsey, a couple questions for Lindsey.
Go ahead.
Yes, I'm currently serving the military, and I'm just kind of with all the...
John, hold it. I apologize. We're at the top of this hour. Reverend Williams, you'll stay on with us?
If you'll allow me.
Absolutely, sir. John, we'll pick up your question immediately following top of the hour news, okay?
Right. Yes,
very good. You're listening to Drive Time Live, the Mills Crenshaw Show on K-Talk.
Businesses, the engines of a smarter planet.
Our business depends on the movement of information. Sure, we could use a free file transfer solution like FTP, but if our file transfers, payments, or orders are interrupted, then our business is interrupted.
Which makes that free solution quite costly.
Instead, we rely on Sterling Connect Direct from IBM.
24/7, unattended, uninterrupted, continuous data transfer.
Learn more at ibm.com/engine/connect. Never bet on a horse named Tripod. Never go cliff diving with a guy named Cliff. It's just too many cliffs. Never tell a zombie he looks like death warmed over. And never trust a car that hasn't been trusted to Midas. Save on brakes, tires, maintenance, and total car care for a car you can depend on long after the warranty expires. You deserve the Midas touch. Save up to $50 on new brake pads or shoes. Install $25 per axle. Excludes warranty redemptions, most vehicles, and participating Midas.
A true family dentist is a rare prize. I'm referring to a gifted professional who takes pride in every aspect of his profession, whether making sure your children's teeth grow in straight to correcting the problems caused by old age. I know just such a professional. Let me recommend Dr. Sam Ritchie in Riverton at the Lighthouse Dental, located at the southwest corner of Bangor and 134th South. From the moment you walk in, you're going to feel at home. The rates are reasonable, and there are several types of financing available, no matter what your family's dental needs might be. Tell the receptionist you're a K-Talk listener, and you'll get an initial consultation and examination, including x-rays, absolutely free. Call 801-253-GRIN. That's easy to remember. 253-4746. That's 253-GRIN. Call now. 253-GRIN to schedule your free consultation. 801-253-GRIN. And remember to tell them Mills referred you. Or you can visit them at their website, lighthousesmiles.com.
You're listening to Utah's first #1 talk station. K-Talk, AM 630, KTKK, Sandy, Salt Lake City. The whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
NBC News Radio, I'm Veronica Dela Cruz. Healthcare.gov went under the microscope today on Capitol Hill.
We didn't see the full kind of integrated end-to-end system testing that you're talking about.
Why not?
Until a couple of days leading up to the launch.
Shouldn't we have had that?
Ideally, yes.
Ideally, yes. Wouldn't any other system, corporate entity, rolling out something would test to see if it worked before it went out into the field?
Yes.
There's the first congressional hearing into the online registration problems for Obamacare. The senior vice president of CGI Federal, Shirley Campbell, was asked by Republican Congressman Joe Pitts.
Ms. Campbell, why doesn't healthcare.gov work properly?
Sir, if there was a silver bullet to answer to that question, I'd give it to you.
Demolition has started on the Connecticut Elementary School where 20 first graders and 6 adults were killed. Sandy Hook Elementary is being taken apart piece by piece. Dallas police have fired a police officer for shooting a mentally ill man. This is NBC News Radio. President Barack Obama called on Congress today to finish work on an immigration overhaul by the end of the year. It is a lofty goal that NBC White House reporter Kristen Walker says will be difficult to meet given the staunch opposition of many House Republicans.
House Republicans are talking about this in very different terms. They don't want to pass a big bill. What they want to do is pass piecemeal pieces of legislation. House Speaker John Boehner's spokesperson reiterated that today, saying that they don't want to pass a large, quote-unquote, Obamacare-style piece of legislation when it comes to immigration reform.
And hashtag don't make the Facebook mistake. Twitter has revealed a more modest debut price for its IPO. Shares will be prices between $17 and $20, 70 million shares released. That would raise it to $1.6 billion and value the company at just about $11 billion. Hashtag nice. I'm Veronica De La Cruz, NBC News Radio.
Chris Matthews, host of MSNBC's Hardball.
Here on Hardball, you can expect me to discuss history as it relates to what's happening now. You can expect to hear me analyze what politicians are doing today with what I've seen other politicians do before. And you can expect me to fight for the causes that stirred me in my 20s when passions rose, minds were set, and life missions accepted. And this is Hardball.
Hardball with Chris Matthews, weeknights at 7 p.m. Eastern, only on MSNBC. I need to archive emails to comply with business regulations.
Do you have an IT guy to help search through thousands of PST files?
No.
Got time to install a complicated product or create detailed reports?
No.
You okay paying storage fees to save duplicate emails and images?
No.
Offshore automated phone tree support okay?
No.
Then yes, we can help.
The Barracuda Message Archiver lets you store and find emails fast to avoid compliance and litigation penalties. Easy setup and single instance storage will save you time and money. And if you need help, you'll talk to a live human. Try the Barracuda Message Archiver free. Go to barracuda.com/yes. Ron Delano, Attorney, Houston. Attention, mesothelioma patients. If you or a loved one were exposed to asbestos years ago, this may be the cause of your mesothelioma lung cancer. Billions of dollars have been set aside to compensate mesothelioma sufferers, and you may be entitled to a tax-free share of that money, even if you're simply a family member. Make a free call to 800-764-3000 right now to learn more. Ask for your free mesothelioma information kit. Compensation to pay for medical bills and treatments may be available. Many mesothelioma patients were exposed to asbestos and didn't even know it. Secondhand asbestos exposure can also cause this mesothelioma cancer. Your asbestos exposure history needs to be investigated, and the first step is a free consultation. Don't wait. Call now. 800-764-3000. If you've been diagnosed with mesothelioma, find out about your legal rights and possible financial compensation. Mesothelioma cancer patients, get help now. The call and the information are free. 800-764-3000. 800-764-3000.
Tuesday, November 5th, the Taylorsville citizens are going to vote on joining the fire district. Will you vote no on joining the fire district? The fire district has independent taxing authority over the residents. Taylorsville became a city to keep fire and police under their citizens' control. Let's vote no on November 5th. Taylorsville does not need to give the fire union control to tax and spend on their own. Let's keep our local taxes and services as they have in the past. Please vote no on November 5th. It's the right thing to do. Let the mayor and city council know how much we care about our own rights and freedom. Don't be fooled by union firefighters on your doorstep asking you to support their personal interests. Whatever happened to the serve and protect standards we had a few years ago? Vote no on Tuesday, November 5th. Ask your neighbors to vote the same.
Washington refuses to cut spending. The Fed responds by issuing more worthless Federal Reserve notes. China quietly sells off our debt, banks begin to fail, prices start to skyrocket, and the Fed reacts by raising interest rates. It starts with food and fuel, and then all hell breaks loose. Fiction? If that's what you believe, stop listening. You're ignoring the lessons of history. For those of you who are concerned about your family's future, once you've built your food reserves, call me about a practical solution for making sure you don't get caught holding a pile of useless paper. Silver is the answer. Call 801-706-2256. slowly twice. I'll call you as soon as I get off the air and answer any questions you have. No sales pitch, just a practical solution for a potential economic disaster. Call 801-706-2256. Call 801-706-2256 now.
AM 630 K-Talk, the voice of Utah, proudly presents Drive Time Live. Real people, real talk. Now the dean of talk radio, Mills Crenshaw.
506. Welcome back to Drive Time Live, Mills Crenshaw Show, 801-254-5855. My honored guest is Reverend Lindsey Williams. And if you're just joining us this hour, I don't know what I can tell you. You're just going to have to get the show on the internet tonight and listen to the first 2 hours, because we have covered incredible amounts of ground, including new information on when the collapse will occur and what will be some of the triggers. John, thank you for your patience. Your question, please.
As Pastor Lindsey, I currently serve in the military, and we obviously are seeing the effects of the budget cuts and all the things that are going on. Just with the upcoming collapse, has there been any talk on whether or not America could lose its superpower status as a result of the economy collapsing? Second question is are the elite going to be looking into taking in the retirement accounts of the retirees of the military? And then
the first question is, if what will happen, let me give you a statement that I got just the other day. The American dollar will lose its status as the world's premier reserve. That's very close to happening. Let me give you an example that happened in the past 3 days. Please, if you have pencil, write this down. Go back and look it up for yourself. In the past 3 days, here's what happened. On Monday of this week, dollar went down to 79.2. Let me try to explain that. Anytime the dollar goes below 80, let me try to explain that figure 80. 12 of the world's leading currencies are taken by the powers that be on any given day, and they figure out the value of those currencies equal to each other. The dollar must maintain an 80 against the other currencies that it's related to. It must maintain an 80 in order for us to enjoy the lifestyle that we have in America today. Anytime the dollar falls below 80, it just sends jitters all around the world, not only to us, but also to other countries. Now, the dollar is losing its reserve status very rapidly. On Tuesday, it went down to 79.2. Today, this morning, it was 79.0, and many people are expecting it to go to 78, maybe over the weekend. This is drastic. Now, let me show you the response that gold had, which, of course, what Mills is dealing in is silver. It's going to have the identical same response. On Monday, the 21st, gold gained $20. On Tuesday, it gained $30. On Thursday, today, it went up $19. You're going to see this continue to go up as the dollar falls. Really, gold hasn't gone up. It's just that the dollar is of less value. Well, it takes more of those dollars to buy the same amount of gold. But we are very, very concerned. In fact, I was talking with my Wall Street, I would call him a Wall Street insider. Just talking with him this morning, and he said positively we are very, very concerned about the American dollar. As far as the military is concerned, whenever pension funds are confiscated, all of them will be confiscated.
And they are planning that.
So you're
positively. Well, it's already been tried. Now, think of the nations whom this is already done in. It happened in Poland. This happened in Cyprus. This happened in Iceland. This happened in Argentina. This happened in Venezuela. This is nothing new. These countries have already had this happen. and they use them as test cases to know what to do in the big country, which, of course, is the United States of America. Now they have an idea how to do it. And I was told that it positively is going to happen, and I don't think it'd be that long before it does, because our government is desperate for money right now.
And we can convert existing IRAs into precious metals, but you're running out of time.
Do you recommend, how do you see it affecting the military, the U.S. military? I guess with the readiness and as the status, use more CUE being obviously a collapse. We're not going to be able to go around the nation as much as we would if we held the reserve currency. Would that you foresee the United States paying more in home rather than abroad doing work around the world, or do you foresee it just because of the collapse that keeps us more in the United States taking care of the home front?
Well, I'm not quite sure about other countries. I know that it was advised by some top people in Wall Street whom I was in touch with this week. They advised people to, number one, get out of banking every way possible. Keep only in the bank account what's positively necessary for you to operate on any given time so that you won't lose it when it does happen. And secondly, they actually went so far as to advise those who have the ability of doing so to have a foreign bank account, or in other words, to have some money outside the United States of America that they can use if they have to.
Thank you for that question, John. Isaac, your turn. Welcome.
Oh, thank you, and thank you, Pastor Williams, for being here today. You know, I've listened to you for years, and you've pretty much been, fairly consistent all the time with your story. The story you gave about Gull Island proved to be good, true. So I have no reason at all to doubt what you're saying. I just consider, I just want to run this by you, sir. The Affordable Care Act is really an unaffordable Luciferian enslavement of the American Middle Class Act, as far as I'm concerned. It will suck the wealth out of what wealth is left out of the middle class and establish an elite class that is Congress, since they exempted themselves and their families and their fellow workers there in Washington out of it, along with the cronies. So they will be the exempted elite that will get the Cadillac health care system, and we will be put in line for the, basically what amounts to the elimination of the old, a system where the older Americans can no longer even have good health care through Medicare. So what it is really is a population management program. Am I correct?
Well, that's exactly what Mr. Farm said to me back nearly 5 years ago. He said, Chaplain, this is not going to be a health care bill. He said it has, in fact, he went so far as to say it has no relationship to health care at all. He said this is a population management program, like game management. Then basically we're all very expendable to these elite snobs in Washington.
Isaac, listen to his response. You talked over part of his explanation.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're expendable. That's true. Now think about two things. It has been estimated that approximately $300 will be taken out of the budget of every family of 2 children and a mother and dad. Now you take every family in America of 4 people, and you remove $300 from their ability to pay in any given month, and you do that with every family in America for a family of 4, how much are you going to take out of the economy? This is going to utterly decimate the American economy. Some people, $100 would mean the difference between surviving and having food on the table that we cannot. So this is drastic again. I was on the phone with Dr. David Janda. Please go on YouTube and look up David Janda, Janda. Dr. David Janda is one of the most prominent doctors in America. He is so prominent, practicing physician today. He is so prominent that Congress actually asked him to appear recently and tell them what he thinks about the health care bill. Dr. Janda and I are fairly personal friends. I've been on this radio show many times. And Dr. Janda said back a number of months ago, he said, Chaplain, to the best that I can tell, 40% of the healthcare professionals in America will have quit by January the 1st. They will not and cannot operate under the Obamacare or the new Affordable Health Care bill. I was on the phone with him this past week, and he said, Lindsey, it's not 40%. He said, now my survey is over 50% of the healthcare professionals of America will no longer be in the profession after January the 1st of 2014. I want to give you a personal example, and then we'll come back to another question you may have. My wife has arthritis, and we had to go to a doctor 2 weeks ago. And in the course of the visit, I asked the doctor, I was just sitting there as a bystander, I asked the doctor, I said, Doctor, what are you going to do after the Affordable Health Care bill comes in? And he said, I don't know really what it's all about. That was his opinion. And I said, okay, I'll tell you a few things. I told him, and the first thing he said was, he said, I'm in the 50s, I'm perfectly able to retire. And he said, I quit. Just like that. He said, I quit. Now, there are going to be over 50% of the healthcare professionals of America who will quit after January the 1st. Can you imagine going to the emergency room? Can you imagine trying to get doctor's help?
Oh, there'll always be Dr. Gupta.
Yeah. And the other part of my question, Lindsey, is you talked about the two divine interventions. I think recently we may have seen two divine interventions, one in Egypt where the Muslim Brotherhood was totally in control and were persecuting Christians and driving them out of the country at the rate of $250,000 a month, the ones they weren't murdering and burning their churches. And then the people rebelled to such an extent, millions of them showed up, and the army actually took the Muslim Brotherhood out of power and put in a secular military government. That may have been divine intervention, and I think maybe the glitches in the healthcare system right now that they are experiencing, the mysterious glitches, may be a divine intervention also. That gives us chance, like you say, to contact our senators and that and just say, we're fed up, we've had it, we're not going to be herded into this death care program, us and our children, and you either stand up right now or get the hell out of Congress and go home.
And by God's grace, I think that we will see numerous divine interventions in the near future that will help people like you and me and Mills.
Well, thank you very much.
Thanks, Isaac. Gary, welcome. Gary.
Yes, thanks, Mills and Chaplain Lindsey. My question is something that's been with me for a long time, dating back to 9/11, and that is there any possibility there may be another 9/11 coming?
Not that they have mentioned to me. The next things that you're going to see are the items I've mentioned here. You're going to see the evaluation of currency at some point. I think you'll see in the very near future the confiscation of the pension funds money. These are probably the next items that you're going to see. I think they have the American people dumbed down enough at this point that a 9/11 will probably not be necessary.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. 801-254-5855. By the way, right now, we're affiliated. I am a registered broker with a company that is licensed to create a self-directed IRA. And they will do everything for you. They'll handle all the paperwork. They will request the funds that you currently have in your retirement program be transferred into this self-directed IRA, and they will order for you the precious metals that will not be stored in a bank. The last thing you ever want is to have any of your goods stored in a bank, because when the banks go belly up, and as Reverend Lindsey Williams has said, they are going to collapse, they'll just confiscate any goods. These IRAs that we're dealing with are stored at Brinks, which is not subject to the banking laws. We'll be right back. You're listening to Drive Time Live, the Mills Crenshaw Show.
Still making a mortgage payment? You feel broke at the end of each month? Effective immediately, you may qualify for a home equity conversion mortgage to eliminate your monthly mortgage payment and put more cash in your pocket. You don't need income to qualify, and you keep the deed to your home. You could even receive monthly income. We're Capital Financial Group, owned and operated in Utah. Call to find out your options now. We can even meet with you face-to-face. Don't wait until tonight. Call right now, 801-298-5887. Capital Financial Group, 801-298-5887. Call right now, 801-298-5887. Capital Financial Group, 801-298-5887, or visit us online at www.capitalfinancialgroup.com. Don't wait until tonight. Call right now, 801-298-5887. That's Capital Financial Group, 801-298-5887, or visit us online at www.capitalfinancialgroup.com. NMLS number 3146.
Some people would call him a loser. He ran for state office. He was beaten. He started a business. He failed. He ran for Congress. He lost. He was nominated for vice president. He lost again. But he knew only those who never tried are the real losers. And Abraham Lincoln was no loser. Persistence. Pass it on. A message from the Foundation for a Better Life.
Want to start saving money on your prescription? Mark Maxon here, and I'm excited to introduce Lowest Med. Lowest Med provides access to some of the lowest prices available on prescriptions you use every day. It's so easy. Just visit lowestmed.com and print out your free discount card, or just download the free Lowest Med app on your smartphone and start saving up to 75%. Lowest Med isn't insurance, and it's absolutely free. You'll save money at over 60,000 pharmacies nationwide, like Walmart, Costco, Walgreens, Rite Aid, Target, and more. Find prices on your prescriptions at local pharmacies lower than you've been paying. It only takes seconds to discover the huge discounts you'll receive with Lowest Med. Save the first time and every time.
Learn from his elite friends who are really the people who are behind the one world government movement. Now, to him, they are not they. He knows them. He's broken bread with them. He knows them by name. And they have shared information. And as he readily admits, yes, they use him because part of their ethic is that they always tell people what they're going to do before they actually do it. Is that correct, Reverend?
That's correct. Everything. And the way that they'll tell you sometimes is what's so interesting. They may tell you through a national liberal media telecast or something. They may tell you through a movie. But they will tell you what they're going to do in advance if you know how to interpret their buzzwords.
One more comment before I go right back to the phones. There are some of you that have retirement programs that are going to be tempted to think, well, I'm going to wait until I see the government starting to confiscate these retirement funds, and then maybe I'll take the steps necessary. It's too late. It will happen overnight. And once they seize these retirement programs, there is no way you're going to be able to convert it into precious metals. You can now. For how long? I don't know. Am I in error, Reverend?
That's exactly what happened in Poland only 3 weeks ago. Just one morning, out of a clear blue sky, with no announcement ahead of time, Poland announced that 50% of everything that was in private retirement funds would be confiscated as of that moment. Now, you can't convert it after they say that. That 50% that's left, you can, and there will be a mad rush to do it. But you will say, well, I'll be okay. I'll get my check next month. Yeah, you will, and the next, and the next. But remember, 50% of that is gone now. They can't put it into the markets to try to make more and to get interest or whatever they may get out of it in order to boost that retirement fund.
And the dollars will buy a lot less.
Less. And a year and a half from now, there'll be nothing left in that retirement fund.
801-254-5855. John.
Oh, thank you.
I've enjoyed your insights, Reverend. But one thing about the oil, the Alaskan pipeline originally was built to supply oil to the United States of America. And now that oil is sold to Japan because obviously the oil companies get a bigger profit margin at $9 a gallon as opposed to $5 a gallon. And then the blockage of the pipeline up to the fracking oil across the middle United States, that was stopped by the Midwestern people because they realized that oil was just going to flow right by their front doors down to New Orleans and also off to the Orient. And that the price of gasoline in the Midwest was going to go skyrocketing. So I would say overall, the government, the president, whoever would have enough guts, would probably be well served nationalizing our oil companies and getting rid of the foreign oil companies that are here. I think that would be a good solution that would create currency solvency, which seems to be, the main focus of what you're saying.
My concern right now is the Bakken oil field in North and South Dakota and Montana, and where that oil is going. I haven't been able to find from anybody where it's going. I know the oil's there. One of the largest oil fields on the face of the earth, and they're drilling holes in the ground every day. But where is the oil going, and why doesn't it bring the price of American oil down? And we do not have a single congressman who has got the fortitude to do anything about it. It is beyond me why we can't put some new people in Washington instead of leaving these old ones up there for years and years that do nothing.
Well, it seems to me that the price of oil would drop, the price of the goods and the food and everything would drop also, and the production would return to America. We could probably build things cheaply here, right here in the United States.
John, what's escaped you in your thinking process, and there's nothing wrong with your thought process other than the fact that the elite that Reverend Lindsey Williams knows personally are many of them directly involved in the oil industry. Is that correct, Reverend?
The ones that I know are directly involved in the oil industry. The ones that are in the financial industry, I have an opportunity to talk to some every now and then, but very seldom. But the oil industry, yes.
And that's the problem. James, welcome. Your turn.
Yes, I have a contact in Draper that informs me that the Queen of England makes $280 billion a year off her private trade, like insider trading for banks. Are you, Dr. Williams, bless you, and are you kind of familiar with some of the monies that trade hands with the so-called elites?
Yes, I know a number of things that startle me to no end. One of them being the Iraqi situation. We went in there and supposedly the oil in Iraq was going to pay for the war. And when I found out what the Clinton family was made out of Iraqi oil, I was flabbergasted. What happened was there was a person who was responsible for guarding the docks where the oil was loaded and sent out in Iraq, and he came forth and gave me information as to where it went and who was actually received the proceeds from it. And you're correct. A lot of these places and people in high places have literally made billions off their oil trades.
All right, thank you. I'll listen off. Have a great afternoon. God bless.
Thank you. 801-254-5855. Abe Wicken, welcome.
Hey, good afternoon, gentlemen. My question is about the Affordable Health Care Act, and that's just one of many, but it doesn't seem as though the people are going to be able to stop it. Everything the people do gets blindsided with a positive outlook by this government that we're in now, and I'm not so sure it can be eliminated. And the same thing with the wire transfers. I mean, what if Walmart wants to transfer money overseas to buy a shipload of goods, or, you know, it seems like all the government officials are part of this stuff. And then with the gold and silver, you know, you're going to need some gold and silver. You're going to need your food and water, but you're going to need to work. But you're going to need your gold and silver to rebuild your empire, so you need a few cubifores or something. And I'll listen. Thank you.
Okay. The Affordable Health Care Bill positively must be in place before the elite can accomplish what they want. I hope that there'll be enough Americans who will take effect in relation to this in some manner that it can be stopped before it's implemented. Every time I get something from one of the elite that I am able to post, I will post it on LindseyWilliams.net. Now, I don't post something up there every day. I may once a week, I may once every 2 weeks, I may every day. Please, I beg of you, periodically go to LindseyWilliams.net, free of charge, won't cost you a penny. And I have some posts up there right now that have just been put there in the last few days, and especially, please, in relation to the Affordable Health Care Bill, read the brief written by the retired attorney who read all 3,200 pages of it. Again, that's LindseyWilliams.net, Lindsey Williams.net. And Mills, we're also advertising your program up there.
Excellent. I appreciate that. Now, also, you need to be aware that Reverend Williams has a new CD or DVD. I'm not sure which it is, but
DVD.
The DVD. Okay, and it goes into great detail, even more detail than we're able to get to in this program. I urge you to get that. It's very important. There's also a toll-free telephone number that you can call. It's 888-799-6111. Again, 888-799-6111. Use this opportunity. Don't allow yourself to be lulled to sleep because of ignorance. George, welcome.
Good afternoon, Mills.
Yes, Hungarian George. It's been quite a while since we've heard you. You're on a speakerphone. Please get off it because you sound like you're in a grave somewhere.
Oh, really? I am not on a speakerphone. You know, I am actually holding a cordless phone, and I have a headset on, you know. So I don't know. Is it really that bad?
Let's try. Go ahead.
Okay. Mills, what I would like to add to the current topic that the conversation has been about, and that is basically is the immediate demise of the American dollar as a reserve currency that has been, you know, in the eyes and recognized by the entire world for the last 90 years. Now, why are they pulling the plug on the American dollar as the traditional reserve currency? Very simple. You see, the world, the economics of the world has changed a great deal. It has been shifted from the United States and from Europe into China and the Asian region there. Now then, does anybody can anybody recognize the name of a place? It used to be a southern republic of the Soviet Socialist Republic before the dissolution of the Soviet Union. It's called Kazakhstan, and the capital of Kazakhstan is Astana. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Crenshaw, they are setting up a new global, regional, global economic center, and the headquarters of that center will be set up in, they are already setting it up in Astana very quickly now. And now then, therefore, Kazakhstan is now independent, but nevertheless, Kazakhstan is still dominated and controlled by the same traditional forces, the powers that be, that's been running the Soviet Union for the last, since 1917. The president of Kazakhstan, his name is Nursultan Nazarbayev. I have read an article on him in the Russian Pravda about 4 years ago, almost 4.5 years ago. And there in the Pravda, it was stated, he was interviewed, and he said it is time that the world recognizes that the dollar cannot remain anymore a reserve currency. He says that the powers, the economic powers, the shifting of it from Europe and North America is moved into the Asian region. And so, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Crenshaw, your guest and the people that have been called in, Scott and some others, they touched up on that. But the name of the president of the Socialist Republic of Kazakhstan is Nursultan Nazarbayev. You should look up his name and look at his background. Ladies and gentlemen, they are setting up a global regional center, economic center, and it's not going to be in North America. It's not going to be in Europe. Your days are numbered, North America, the great United States, once great United States. You are actually assigned to become a third world nation, the United States, that is. Now, and Mr. Crenshaw, do you remember in 1991 when they pulled the plug, the powers that be, that brought about the demise or the dissolution of the Soviet Union? 1991, they pulled the plug on the the Soviet ruble.
Yep.
Overnight.
And you think
the Soviet people, they lost all their life savings overnight. And then a few days later, they set up an auction block. And all the state assets of the Soviet Union was put on an auction block. And guess who bought everything up? Those who came into Russia, the Soviet Union, with dollar, with heavy currency, hard currency. And they were not the Russian people. They had nothing. They have destroyed all their life savings. And what I see here is this is what's happening in the United States. America, you better be ready for it. They are already ready for you. You are not going to be able to stop it. There's nothing you can do because the global police force, militarized police force, is already in place and making sure that they will handle any kind of a uprising, militant or armed uprising in this country. America, you are done. You are now officially declared as a Soviet-style communist Bolshevik dictatorship. Period.
Interesting comments. Thank you, George. Good to hear from you. Reverend Williams, any comment on that?
I sure do have a comment. There's only one thing that's going to be left when the dust settles. That's gold and silver. Now, those people lost their currency. They might have lost a lot of other things. One thing they won't lose, Mills, is what you've got offering the people out right there right now again, and I would beg you, I've begged on radio shows all over the country. Over the years, they said that their currency was gold and silver. I want to read you a statement. You write the man's name down so you can go and look it up on the internet yourself. There is a Mexican billionaire. His name is Hugo Salinas Price. He wrote just two brief paragraphs here recently. And when I read them, I said, this man knows exactly the same people I communicate with. I was amazed. It was almost like listening to one of them, even though I know nothing about Mr. Price. Hugo Salinas Price, Mexican billionaire, he says, I think we're going to see a series of bankruptcies. I think the rise in interest rates is the fatal sign which is going to ignite a derivative crisis.
Hold that thought. We've got a break, but this is critical information, people. Get Williams is my guest. Will you please start again with the explanation you were just giving?
There is a billionaire in Mexico. His name is Hugo Salinas Price. And just the other day, he wrote a very brief article, only two paragraphs. And I couldn't believe what I was seeing because I had heard over the past 6 months everything he said from my elite friend, and I was amazed. I'll read it. I think we're going to see a series of bankruptcies. I think the rise in interest rates will be the fatal sign which is going to ignite a derivative crisis. This is going to bring down the derivative system. There are over $1 quadrillion of derivatives, and most of them are related to interest rates. The spiking of interest rates in the United States may set this off. What is going to happen in the world is eventually we are going to come to a moment where there's going to be a massive bankruptcies around the globe. What is going to be left after the dust settles is gold, and some people are going to have it and some people are not. Then the problem is going to be to hold on to what you've got, because it's not going to be a very pleasant world.
Scary stuff. Now, off air, we've had several people ask related questions. They want to know, for example, when they issue this new currency, what can be used to get credit for the new currency? Is there a danger that they will outlaw private ownership of gold and silver? And for regular people to own and leave just gold and silver for the rich or the elite to use in commerce?
Less than 1% of the American people own gold coins minted in the United States of America. Less than 1%. They aren't concerned about that at all. Not the least of their worries. Less than 1/2 of 1% of the American public owns any coin that's minted prior to 1933, I believe it is, when the government said gold can't be used, and the coins prior to that date are still recognized, cannot possibly be touched by federal law, which of course they can change when they want to, but they aren't going to. The elite will not outlaw gold and silver. It is their currency. They're going to leave it there. There are a lot of very wealthy people, even in America and other countries, who will be using it because they know that's the only thing that will be there when the dust settles. And I think you have nothing to be concerned about with gold and silver confiscation or outlawing at all.
Excellent. We've got a full board still. Let me see. Lynn was up first. Lynn, welcome.
Hello?
Hi.
Hi. It says on the exempt group for buying the health plan coverage, it says if you're part of a religious group opposed to accepting health insurance benefits. And were there things hidden in it about the chip and people believe that's the mark of the beast? Couldn't Christian groups consolidate and say we're opposed to this because of our religious beliefs concerning it?
There will probably be many, many people in the denominational and religious world that will hang on to that and attempt to use it. They may succeed and they may not. All depends on how desperate that the government gets for money. Hopefully, such clauses as that will be able to spare many people. So keep it in mind, because as time comes around, you may be amongst many others that also want to use that.
So where you're a Christian minister, would you have a Christian church that could oppose Obamacare?
I have had a number of programs that I've been on with just in the last few days. One of them was Pastor Butch Paul out of West Virginia. And he said to me, he said, Lindsey, my entire congregation and I have agreed that no matter what they do to us, that we will have no part in this affordable health care bill, regardless of what happens to us. Dr. David Janda said the same thing to me. He's a very devout Christian. And he said to me on the phone the other day, one of the most prominent physicians of the Middle West, he said, Lindsey, I cannot conscientiously support abortion and contraceptives. And he said, then on the other side, he said, I cannot take part in such a system. And he said, I will not. In fact, Dr. Janda is at the prime of his profession. And he said, I have already sold my office building. He owns his own medical building. That's how successful a doctor he is. He said, I've already sold my building. And he said, I've already given a date that I'm resigning the medical profession, even though he's made his fortune there. And he said, I've already told the local hospital when I will quit. So there are many people that definitely plan to take action.
Okay, how do you spell Dr. David Janda, the Janda part?
His last name is Janda, Janda, and go on YouTube and look up David Janda, and you'll be amazed at the presentations and the documentation that he gives there.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you for the call. Greg, welcome.
Hi there, how you doing?
Good.
Good. This is a question for you, Pastor Williams. The question I have, these elite people are in their late 70s and early 80s, is that correct?
The ones that I know are. Now, there is a younger group, but
there is.
I don't know.
Okay. Because I'm just wondering why if these guys are in the late 70s and early 80s, they bring this New World Order into effect. How long are they going to be around to be in this New World Order? It isn't going to be very long. And why are they doing it?
It's amazing that you would even think in this direction, because some of them, for instance, one I was just in touch with the other day, he has a family. He has 3 children. These children, he's educated them well, and they're out there in the marketplace. He is very upset about the way that the younger elite are carrying on the bringing in of the New World Order. In fact, he's upset to the point of being livid. The number of emails that I've gotten from him indicate that he is not pleased at all with the way the younger generation is bringing this in. And he regrets the fact that he ever had a part in it years ago.
He regrets it?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
he positively does.
I've listened to a lot of
he had to go over with again. I don't think he had anything at all to do with it.
Yeah. Don't they know the Bible really well?
You'd be amazed at the number of them who have come to know Christ as their Savior. In fact, I was assured after Mr. Fromm passed away. I dealt with him and spent so much time with him. And one of his relatives, I was in touch with after his funeral, and he said, Chaplain, I want to thank you for what you've done. He said, I want to assure you that you'll see my dad in heaven.
Interesting.
And then my point is, you've got people like that. I still don't understand why they're doing it. Is it Satan behind them? Is it God behind them? Do God first? You see what angels had to make some difficult choices in the Old Testament where they had to kill people. I'm wondering why. What's the reason? What's the forethought behind it? Is it years and years of planning to get to this point, and they have to do it? They want to do it?
Lucifer has been on this planet from the beginning. He doesn't go away. We forget that.
Well, he's going away when the judgment comes, but if these are very well-educated people, they know the Bible, they're about to bring about this massive amount of change. I'm just wondering, and some of them aren't even going to be around to see the fruits of all the labor, why they're doing it.
Well, there again, the younger group are doing it because they feel they have so much to gain by it. They're totally corrupt in their mind and their activities. They are completely obsessed by satanic powers. Now keep something in mind. When Jesus Christ was tempted of the devil, as recorded in the Scriptures, you'll remember that one of the temptations was that Satan showed him all the kingdoms of the world, and he said, I will give them all to you if you will just bow down and worship me. Christ did not refute his claim. Never. Who owns the kingdoms of the world until the day that Christ himself becomes the King of Kings and Lord of Lords? It's Lucifer. They were given to him because of what happened in the garden, and he owns them today. So all of these people are under his complete control.
Okay, so they're blinded. They don't see the end result of what's going to happen.
Totally blinded. And when these people were younger, they were blinded too. Now, the closer a person gets to the graveyard, the more reality sets in. And they see some things now that they would never have seen a few years ago.
So they're not educating the younger ones on that, or they're not trying to educate the younger ones, saying maybe this isn't the best path to go?
Why would they listen? They have all the power, all the control in their hands. They're playing with countries like you would play with dominoes. Why should they listen?
Well, the younger ones didn't build it. The older ones built it. They were around for many years. You'd think they'd ask for their advice and their how would they handle these different situations, and why are you feeling the way you're feeling right now? So why are you thinking of powerful Lindsey Williams?
So it's the same plan, whether it be the older elite or the younger elite. They're all following the identical same plan.
Oh, okay. So the younger elite are probably, what, 40s or 50s?
Yes.
Great. Oh, okay. Thank you. Appreciate the call. 801-254-5855. Robert, your turn.
Yeah, thank God I got on. Thought he was going to run the timeout. I just have one first question. One thing you just said about the Clintons making money off the Iraq oil. Is there any proof anywhere that we could find, or did this even happen? Did the Bushes make any money off that oil? I have to say that they had to if the Clintons did.
Okay, I didn't quite understand the question because you were...
Is there any proof that the Bushes made money off the oil the way the Clintons did?
Well, Bushes are in the oil from the very beginning. Bushes have made more off of it than the Clintons have. I just happen to know about the particular situation in Iraq because an individual came forth, contacted me, and personally told me what he saw and what he could prove.
That's what I mean about the Iraq oil, not just oil. But did any of the Bushes or W make like a profit off that oil from Iraq himself? And is there any proof that we can find of that?
Well, the Bushes have made their fortune off of oil for years and years and years. That's the way they made their fortune.
I know that. I'm not asking that. I'm asking about the Iraqi oil. If our guys died, so George W. Bush could put more money in his pocket off of oil from Iraq.
You know, I'm not sure of the Bush's involvement with the Iraqi oil, and the only reason I knew about the Clintons making literally billions off of it is because of this individual that came forth and talked with me personally.
We're out of time. Reverend, it has been a great privilege to have you on. Very informative. And everything that you've said is something that people need to seriously think about. If you are serious about taking precautions, you can call me in about 5 minutes, right after we're off the air. My number, 801-706-2256. Again, 801-706-2256. And please, you want to go to LindseyWilliams.net. Not .com, but LindseyWilliams.net. And the toll-free number, 888-799-6111. Thank you so much for being part of this, Reverend Williams. We will have you back again soon.
Mills, it's only because of you that I could be here. God bless you.
And the same to you, sir. Stay tuned.